Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Daniela, and on this channel we eat crafts, cocktails, cooking, all sorts of good stuff. And today is another cooking episode. We are making a potato leek soup with a nice secret ingredient, which will probably be in the title, but that's okay. I don't know how to show this to you guys. But it's a delicious, creamy potato leek soup with a little bit of a kick, and I can't wait to show you how to make it. So let's jump right in. But before that, I have not tasted it yet, so let's give it a little taste test. Delicious, absolutely incredible. Everything I wanted and more. So actually this was inspired because yesterday I was really hungry while we were, what were we doing? Oh, we went hiking. I was really hungry afterwards. And I was like, I just need a little something in my stomach. So we stopped at a local co-op and they had a potato leek soup and it was really good, but I wanted more and I wanted extra flavor. So that's what I created today and I can't wait to show you guys how it's made. Let's check it out. So I'm going to have all the measurements and directions down in the description box below, but I'm going to walk you through it as well. So I have a bunch of leeks here. I have never used leeks before in my life. So I actually did have to look up a YouTube video on how to clean them and chop them. Otherwise, it would have not been anything like this. So I will link that video for you guys down below, but you should make sure that you wash them because there's quite a bit of dirt in there. So I basically chopped off any of the taller green areas where it might have been a little too tough and not soft enough once it cooks down. And then once I do that, I'm going to slice it all up and then chop it a little bit further. Now you could have cut these down in half right away and then done this part. I just wanted mine any old shape. They didn't have to be half circles or full circles, whatever. And I'm using 2 leeks here. I didn't end up using all 3 of them. Throwing them into a strainer or a colander. And then what you can't really see here is like next to my cutting station is my sink. So I am running some cold water under that and then just taking my hand, moving everything around and making sure that they get nice and clean and all that dirt gets off of there. So I'm going to set that aside for the meantime. And I'm going to save those top areas for some veggie stock later that we'll make. Now I end up using, I believe, 5 or 6 of these like medium yellow potatoes. I personally don't really like Idaho or russet or like the brown baking potatoes. They taste like dirt to me. So you're just going to peel all of those right away. I didn't end up using every single one in that image there. I just used 5 or 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go, 5. And then I'm going to cut these lengthwise and then into little cubes or squares. They do not have to be perfect by any means because half of them are going to get blended up anyways. So just chop them up nice and small. When you chop them up small, it just makes it faster to cook essentially, and that's the goal I'm going for here. So again, I'm just cutting them down a few times lengthwise and then I'm chopping them up into little squares, cubes, rectangles, whatever shape you want to call it. Before moving on to the next step. Now I will add more veggies in a minute here, but these are the 2 that are going to be the hardiest, or at least some of the hardiest, and so they're going to take a little longer to cook. So I threw in about 2 tablespoons of butter into my large soup pot here. I'm struggling here to film this because I wasn't sure how to get the camera into the pot, so bear with me here. So I'm throwing in my leeks and my potatoes, and I've got it over medium heat, and I'm just going to let those start to cook up a little bit while I move on to cutting my next few vegetables and some garlic. So I've got 2 cloves of garlic here. You can add as little or as much as you want. I'm just cutting off the little tiny dried end, and then I got this tip from watching Rachel Ray's 30-minute meals when I was a kid, but you literally just put the garlic clove under the knife and smack down on the knife, and it just basically smushes it so much that the peel just kind of flies right off. Like, it's super easy to just slip off. And then I'm going to finely chop both of my garlic cloves before adding them to my pot. So I'm adding in my garlic here, giving it a good stir. I learned somewhere that you shouldn't add the garlic immediately when you're cooking stuff because it has a higher chance of burning. So you're supposed to add it after you start the other stuff in the pan. I don't really know. I'm not a professional chef. I just super love cooking. So I have some celery and a carrot here. I've peeled the carrot. I'm going to keep the end of it, like I said, because I'm going to use it to make some veggie stock in a little bit.
And as it gets thicker towards the bottom, I do slice it in half and then cut up those pieces. Then the celery, I had already chopped the tops off camera and kept those with my other pile that you can see building up behind my cutting board there. And I used about a celery stick and a half and 1 carrot stick. But again, you can use as many or as few vegetables as you want. I just knew that I wanted more than just potato and leeks and cream. I wanted extra vegetables in there. So I am now putting those into my pot. Again, I'm struggling to figure out the angle to film it here. I actually broke one of my tripods filming this, by the way, trying to figure it out. Whoops. Oh well. Here's how that deliciousness is looking so far, and I wish you guys could smell this. It smells so good. The butter, the veggies, the garlic. It's really getting good here. So I'm just seasoning it up with some salt and pepper. And I'm using some fresh cracked pepper just for that extra flavor. You could use just regular pepper as well. And then I'm going to use some thyme leaves. Now, it looks like I'm adding a lot, but that's because not a lot is coming out of my shaker. So I tried shaking some in, and then I was like, you know what? Or shaking some into my palm, and then I was like, you know what, that's not working, so I'm just going to shake a whole bunch straight into the pot and not have to worry about the hand thing. So I know it looks like a crazy amount, but like I said, it's because not very much was coming out of my shaker for whatever reason. I'm going to stir that up again, and I'm going to make sure that all my veggies have started cooking down before this next step, which is where I'm adding 1 full container of some vegetable stock. I wanted to keep this vegetarian, but you could absolutely use chicken stock or chicken bouillon if you wanted to, but I just wanted to keep it vegetarian, like I said, so I'm just adding the veggie stock after my harder vegetables have softened. I'm going to add 1 bay leaf. Now, don't be fooled. These aren't actually Walmart bay leaves. I actually got these locally. So these are New Mexico bay leaves, which I don't know why, but I was super amped about. We're going to throw a cover on that and let it sizzle. And now it's time for intermission. Okay, so I'm using all of my scraps from earlier, and I'm just going to make a super easy vegetable stock. So I've got my extra parts, the bottoms of my leeks and the tops of my leeks. I've got my carrot nub. I've got my celery, and I just filled this pot up with water, and I'm seasoning it with some salt. Oh, I did put a splash of oil in there too. And I'm going to let that boil and simmer for quite a few minutes. And then I'm just going to strain it, drain it, strain it, strain it. And then it actually ended up being too much for my 4-cup measuring cup, which I honestly didn't expect because there was so many veggies in that little pot. So I ended up having to use this container as well. But anyways, I'm going to strain that out, and then I'm going to pour them into some jars. And now you've got veggie broth. You could throw this into the fridge or freezer. Mine broke in the freezer, so use something that's not breakable. Okay, back to the recipe. Intermission is over. By the way, I had started that while it was cooking, but if you can see, it's in the back there. And though I finished it in between all those other things, so, do it to your own discretion. I'm now adding some hatch green chili pepper. We're here in New Mexico, where it is the stuff to have in all of your recipes is hatch green chili pepper. So I just grabbed a container from the frozen section, added some of that. If you don't have any, I think you can buy green chilies in cans. You could also use some fresh poblanos and jalapenos if you want some heat. You could also use crushed red pepper. It's up to you. I like the tiny bit of heat. I didn't add a bunch, so it's just got a hint of heat, but it's really delicious and it adds so much flavor. So I do recommend it, but I get it if you're not into heat. Now I'm testing if my potatoes are good enough to blend by scooping some up and then stabbing them with a fork and seeing if it glides through. And they did. So when your potatoes are nice and soft, I did turn it off and let it sit for a couple of minutes just so it's not too hot. And then I scooped about maybe half or more, half to 3/4 of my soup into a blender. I do not have an immersion blender. Maybe someday because I do cook a lot. But I'm just scooping mine into my regular blender, and then I'm just going to blend it up until smooth. And this is going to help with some of that creaminess and to get a bit of a potato puree going on. And pureeing some of those veggies and peppers and deliciousness. So I do recommend this. You could do the whole soup like this. I chose not to because I wanted some potato and vegetable chunks left. I like having a little bit of chunkage left in my soup. if chunkage is a word. So anyways, you could puree the whole thing. I wanted some chunks left, so I just chose to do it this way. But do it do whatever feels good to you. So the stove is off. I'm going to go ahead and pour this entire little mini thing of heavy whipping cream or heavy cream into my soup. I'm going to mix that up. That's also going to be some of our delicious creaminess. I ended up finding this to be perfect. I didn't have to add any like cornstarch or flour to thicken it up. It was really good just like this. And now I am dropping my cheese grater into the soup pot. I'm freshly grating some cheese here. I'm using a marble jack because that's what I prefer. Colby jack, whatever you want to use. You could use cheddar. I'm not a big cheddar fan, so don't come for me. Sorry. But that's what I'm using, and it ended up being super good. And you want to make sure that you're doing this while your pot is off, because otherwise the cheese might curdle and get kind of funky dunky, and we don't want that, where it'll like sink to the bottom and form clumps. Maybe that's the same as curdling. I don't know. It gets weird. So we do this while it's off. Now for a fresh touch at the end here, I've got some parsley that I'm just going to finely chop and mix right into my soup. Or do I put it on top? I think I mix it right in. We're going to find out in a second here because I don't remember. But anyways, I think parsley adds a really nice fresh touch. By the way, you can see in the bowl there that I do have some extra cheese there that I'm going to help top my soup with. Super yum. I mean, you can never go wrong with extra cheese, am I right? Okay, yes. So I did put that parsley directly into the pot, just not showing the pot because I'm still standing here and there's no point. Now to also top it with, along with my freshly shredded cheese, by the way, you could totally use pre-shredded cheese. I just didn't feel like having that powdery stuff around it, but I use that stuff all the time anyways. I don't know, I was being picky, okay guys? Freshly chopping some green onion. You could do chives, absolutely. I find chives to be more expensive, so I just use green onion. And so then we are finally going to just scoop some of our soup into a bowl. And you want to give it a good swirl before you start scooping, so you do get some of the creamy deliciousness broth, but also some of those chunks that were in there that might be sitting at the bottom. And then you're going to top it off with your shredded cheese and your chives, and you are good to go. This is so good and so affordable. Please let me know if you try it.
Thank you all again so much for joining me, and if you tried to make this soup, please let me know. It's seriously really good. I'm not just telling you that because it's on video. It's delicious. Obviously, you can omit the heat if you'd like. But anyways, I hope you try it out. Let me know if you like this video or not. Like, comment, and subscribe if you'd love to support me. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.